Hello, hello. So, I've been working on this Instar project for a bit, trying to set things up. And we had our first meeting a couple days ago where I gave this basic presentation. And I'm just going to record this version now so that, well, A, so that anyone can come and check it out, and B, so that I don't have to give this same description many and many a time. I can just point people towards this video. And here's kind of the loose aim that I'm going for, a community of intellectually embodied soulfulness. We'll get around to what the hell I actually mean by that and how long term of a vision that is. But for now, just want to move ahead to why any of this. Why did I see the need for yet another essentially discussion space, essentially more Zoom calls that we're going to hang out on and try to do something, try to build something together? Well, you can see here, this quote is drawn from, I think, three different discussions that I've had with people the past couple months. Yeah, just this basic sentiment, if not these exact words. I cannot go to another meta modern word salad Zoom call. And a couple of these people seemed like genuinely, there was like genuine distress on their face around, like, it's been 4 or 5 years. I've been attending all of these calls and all of these chats with very cool people with very cool ideas. But why are we still talking about this? Why are we not doing something? Why has it seem to have gotten stuck here in this very intellectual, airy speaking space, right? And there is definitely for me, and it seems like from a lot of people that I've been having conversations with, there's a hunger to do something past the intellect, to go past thinking and talking about all of this stuff and into actually practicing and being able to bring it into the world in some way. And one of the problems I see is the second bit. You can quibble with my wording here, but I'm just putting it as soul opens into intellect, but intellect doesn't really open to soul. We could also use terms like right hemisphere and left hemisphere here, if you're a McGilchrist fan, or intellect and intuition, embodiment and the mind, whatever it is. There's some part of us that really loves abstraction, that really loves talking and writing and thinking, thinking, thinking. And when we start from that part of us, it's really, really hard to deepen down into these other parts of us, the parts of us that want to live in an embodied and enchanted world, that want to carry out into the world and into our relationships what we're doing. That's not really a option that is easy to take. And you can see that from the way that people come in from the intellect door and then just stay there. And that's the exact complaint from the past several years, is that everyone seems to have come in from these intellectual routes and done these little explorations and forays into, oh, I'll take up a little bit of meditation. I'll put together this spreadsheet of my relationships to manage how I'm tracking my love for other people around me and track it in my Notion database. But it never really roots all the way down. It doesn't click. It doesn't go through when we start from intellect. It's really hard to overcome the gravitational pull of the head, the mind, and really bring it down into the body, into the soul, into our actions and the world around us and our relationships. But the reverse is, yeah, the reverse works pretty well if we come in from a place of soulfulness, from a place of embodiment. It's much, much easier for those parts of us to see that they need intellect, to want to naturally include the fruits of the intellect, to want to naturally reach up and go, hey, this is more of an intellect problem. Do you want to take this one and we'll feed it all back in? And yeah, it can, if you're a, again, if you're a Ian McGilchrist stan or of any sort, he talks about this with Master and his emissary as well, right? According to his system, left part of the brain doesn't really want to include the right part. It thinks it can do everything on its own. right part of the brain, which is, as he mentions, the only part with a full body map, that it is a body rather than riding around in a body, it very naturally includes the left hemisphere. It very naturally includes all of these systematizing and, yeah, just really intellectual parts of us and brings it in to this greater whole. So that's part of what I would like to approach with Instar is, can we start more from this place of relationship and embodiment and connection, and from there include intellect and let it grow there, rather than keeping intellect as primary and then having all of these troubles escaping its gravitational field into real life, right? And yeah, all of these things that we're trying to do, all of these ways that we see problems in the world and are hoping and trying and having ideas to solve them or to lessen them or to switch the types of problems and reframe them. I'm calling this entire endeavor the recovery of the world soul, and it very much requires the best of our intelligence. But the best of our intelligence does not come when we start from intelligence, when we get stuck in our intelligence without integrating it into the rest of who we are and the rest of who our family and our community, the world is, right? So part of the goal here is really quite simply just taking a more process oriented view, going from parts to wholes. The parts are really where the intellect kind of shines, right? You can break everything down to pieces, analyze each piece, diagram the connections between them and all of that stuff, but it doesn't actually do the thing. It doesn't really bring them naturally into an operating whole, into a process that carries out itself and evolves itself. And we have a lot of the parts. There are people working on all of these things: body, mind, shadow work, relationships, even relationship with the land, with the environment, money, religion, community, all of this. Lots of people working on lots of really, really great stuff about these and even about how to integrate these. But it tends to stay in the idea realm. It tends to stay in these discussions, in these Zoom calls, in the realm of someone should really try this. Someone should talk to someone in power and try this stuff, rather than, okay, how can we do this? What can we do to make this happen, even in a small way, just as a test case? What can we do? And how can I contribute and help, right? Holes is, yeah, so there's a lot of holes to be made here and a lot of, yeah, just a really singular connection of all of these issues into a wholeness. What I am mostly focused on here, the kind of long term vision, is that phrase I had from the beginning and this phrase here: a community of soulfully embodied intellects, or a community of intellectually embodied souls, soulfully intellectual bodies, however we want to get it. Those four things are the big pieces: community, soul, embodiment, and intellect. Those are the big ones. And that is more the long term, over the course of years, if we can stick this around, guiding North Star. Where we're starting from, where I'm trying to start these from, is basically from embodied intellect. That's the beginning point. Can we start from a place of embodiment, from the wisdom of the body, from the latent insight of the body, and then guide that up into intellect and let those two naturally grow together? And from my own experience, over time, that tends to pretty naturally spread out into soulfulness, into eros, into, what am I really here to do? What is the thing that is driving me, that wants to be done between me and my community, between my community and the world, between whatever? What's the energy that's trying to pour itself through me into the world? And that's partially what I'm meaning by soulfulness. So starting from embodied intellect naturally gives rise to soulfulness, and enough people doing this together, going through this process together, leads naturally to a community. So those are kind of the stages of unfolding that I see internally. Obviously, This is a process, so this is my vision of the process, but it could take any number of forks between now and then. But yeah, that's kind of the guiding star that I'm working from here. How to follow that? Here's where we get into much more open space. And yeah, we had open floor during the meeting to discuss how else we might go about this. And I'm going to be putting this on YouTube. So open floor to you guys in the comments. I will occasionally check those, but very open to new ideas. This is a very new thing that I'm trying out. And yeah, that I would like to do in different ways than I've seen a lot of the discussions like this go. So this first bit I've been alluding to, intellect as soul making. So the way that intellect, and especially embodied intellect, can help lead us towards what is driving us in this life. One of the ways I see to start this is latent insight practice. I'll probably just post another video example of that, so we won't get too far into that now. But it is, I think, a good starting point. We'll be kind of starting the meetings with latent insight practice to get into this more open, spacious, embodied mindset, and then operating on the discussion areas from there. Black pepper, right. If you know what circling practice is, it always seems to me like black pepper. Basically circling, and I'm going to butcher and oversimplify this, but it's fine. But it's kind of this modality where people get together in a circle and they can really only talk about what is present right now in the room. What is there? And in practice, most of these that I've attended, they sound a lot like one person, 2-3 minutes of silence, and then one person will speak up with, I'm feeling a lot of gratitude to be here right now. Someone across the circle, I'm noticing curiosity about your gratitude. What makes you gracious for this? And on like that for 60 to 90 minutes. And for me, I always compare it to black pepper because I love black pepper. I put far too much of it on basically everything I eat. I am an above average consumer of black pepper. But even for me, just grabbing a handful of black peppercorns and chewing on them doesn't sound like a great time to me. And that's how circling always sounds to me, or how it feels to me, is like chewing a bunch of peppercorns. I love that vibe of being with the people in the room, noticing how you're feeling, noticing how you're reacting to them, noticing the space in between all of you. But when it's nothing but that, it always seems to have very little substance to me. So I would like to use, part of these meetings will be kind of taking the black pepper approach to that, where we are together, we are people, we are noticing how we're reacting to each other, how we're seeing each other, the space in between us, but we will be talking about something in that. That will be peppered in, not the entirety of the thing. And as for the people who will be included, there's a tension here between, on the one hand, I want to include as many people as possible and really draw people in, get to know folks, get to practice with people around how to do this, how to carry this out, what are our ideas. But also online discussions that go past 5, maybe 6 people, the dynamics just don't tend to work towards any sort of depth, as far as I can tell. So what I'm thinking of for format is 3 to 5 people in kind of a live panel, and I'll be recording those and posting them, but other people can come live and be more in the audience and text in questions, comments, etc. But only 3 to 5 people talking in the conversation at a given time, and hopefully cycling through some participants. I've got several people I would love to invite and talk to, but I'm also hoping that some people will come, hang out in the comments, see what we're doing, and then want to be included and also cycle in for discussions down the road. And this last point in the column, 75 minutes. 60 minutes always seems too short for this, but then a lot of people jump to 90 minutes. And for me, at least, 90-minute Zoom calls, 90-minute discussions, most often, unless they are very, very good with people I already know quite well, they start to feel too long. And for the last 10 or 15 minutes, I'm usually just looking at the clock, waiting for an out, right? So yeah, 75 will be the default scheduling. It's a weird number, but it seems like where a lot of calls naturally want to start wrapping up. And this last column is very speculative, basically just that we are all in process together. And this isn't about intellect and finding ideas and being the smartest in the room. It's about all of us trying to find something together, trying to make something together, discovering our drives and values and what is already in us wanting to be brought out. And what I mean by this last bit, artifacts encouraged, is yeah, I'm going to be making things based around these discussions, whether that's articles, stories, drawings, whatever it is. I'm going to be making stuff. And my hope is that other people will come and discuss these ideas, and something will come up where you'll want to dig in a little further. You'll want to post your own article. You will want to post a drawing about something. Basically, that if a scene is people making things for each other, if we are all kind of in this conversation together, carrying stuff out, we'll want to make things to show each other and to show what we're thinking about, what we're seeing, what is coming through us. And I really want that to be included just as an early note, that that is always an open option. Right, and finally, open floor in the previous meeting. Here's a couple of the things that came up that I really liked. So one of them is just a conversational norm, basically to just say like, all right, let's come back, and continually anchoring back to that embodied ground, to where we are right here, right now, right? And that's largely because discussions like this tend to fly off very quickly into airy intellectual realms and just chat, chat, chat. And it's good to always just anchor back and, okay, what's here? What are we talking about? Is this all just airy ideas, or can we say something that matters to us? And matters how? The second point I really loved, prioritizing personal experience over ideas. And what we meant there was, yeah, essentially that ideas are great and we want to talk about them, but that they should be flavored with why they are relevant to you. Don't just bring up an idea and throw it into the room like red meat. Tell us, why does that idea connect with you? Why did that one come up? What are you experiencing as you explain this idea? When you heard the idea, what was it like? Back to that personal experience of ideas, of abstraction. How does it connect and integrate with the rest of you? And can you bring us a little more of that fullness and integration rather than just the abstract idea? A norm of intuitive inquiry towards others. Yeah, this one is already a norm in a lot of people I talk to, but I want to encourage it here, where, yeah, just when people ask, like, hey, you seem to like go somewhere when you talk about this. What's the like imagery that's in your mind around this? What are you feeling in your body when you talk about this? Is there like a melody in your mind while you're talking about this? And just being able to connect with that more imaginal level of experience, with that, yeah, that more deeper inner experience of what's going on, and having curiosity about each other towards that level of experience. Which connects to this last point here. One of the people at the original meeting had done a lot of improv. And yeah, he stated what improv is all about to him is making the other people on stage look as good as possible. And I really like this for a norm around Instar, especially because, again, these discussions tend towards getting very airy, very abstract, and it tends towards a lot of monologuing, essentially, and kind of this inner, yeah, there's just this inner hook of like waiting for your thing to say, or trying to brush away other stuff and put in your idea real quick. And that seems to just be a natural part of intellect of what it does. So it's not like evil. We're not going to banish it or anything, but this gentle direction, this gentle norm of actually, we want to keep one eye on making the other people on stage look as good as possible. It's not about shining on yourself. It's about finding this collective space, about coming together with genuine curiosity around what everyone else is experiencing, what is happening as these ideas circulate the room. All right, that's about it. The only last point I have is our first few discussions are going to be on the topic of Mettis. And that's largely because Mettis feels like a huge part of how these meetings want to be conducted, how this community wants to express itself and find as a norm. And I'm using the Peter Kingsley definition of Mettis. She describes here, Mettis is the particular quality of intense alertness that can be effortlessly aware of everything at once. Mettis feels, listens, watches, can even be aware at the same time of every thought drifting into and out of our consciousness. It misses nothing. Mettis is presence and continuous alertness, a way of being always aware of the whole without excluding anything. So this sense of spacious awareness while also being able to be very alert and present with lots of specific things in that open, spacious awareness, that's a part of what we're trying to cultivate. That is part of this, just more open mindset of allowing intellect to operate within this open space. And some of the examples for this are things like wayfarers, charioteers, or wayfinders. Yeah, I think of like Polynesian wayfinding, having trouble with that word, where there's dozens, hundreds of things to keep track of. The salinity of the water, what you can hear from both like the wind, the waves, bird calls, looking for the shadows of islands as the sunlight reflects off the sea and onto the clouds. Can you see a shadow of an island on the underside of the cloud? And it's not a checklist that you're going through to just like check through all these things. It's being open to all of it so that you can immediately notice when each thing is happening, how they all tie together. Again, not taking each of these as individual parts, but all of it together as a whole within that spacious awareness. How can we find that, including the intellect, in the larger whole of our experience? That's what we're aiming at when I say that we're aiming at Mettis and these. All right, that's about enough for my voice today. That's about enough for my voice for several days. So if any of this sounds good to you, join the Mettis page on Luma, the community on Twitter, whatever else I happen to spin up to try to gather people around this. And come in, stop in at the meetings. We'll see how this is going. Hopefully I'll see some of you soon.